My ex told everyone I tried to ruin his life. He said, "She's crazy." I sent screenshots of his cheating to his boss. He got fired and dumped on the same day. My name's Clarissa, and if there's one lesson life has drilled into me, it's that sometimes the people you trust the most will shatter you in ways you never saw coming. Let me tell you about Damien, the man I thought was my soulmate and partner. And let me tell you how, instead, he turned my world upside down with betrayal and lies so deep that I still feel the ache of them. This is the story of how I lost my trust and my sense of peace, but I got something back, too. Damien and I met at a mutual friend's wedding in Evanston. I'll never forget that first night. He was standing near the dance floor, looking out of place in his tux. The friend who introduced us, Mila, practically pushed me into his line of sight, whispering, "You'll thank me later." And from the moment we started talking, it felt like magic. Damien wasn't just charming, he was thoughtful, attentive. He listened to me like no one else had. By the time we'd had a couple of drinks and shared stories about our jobs, I'm a graphic designer, he was in finance, I was already smitten. I should have known that charm like his was a practiced art. We moved in together a year later. Our apartment had these gorgeous lake views, and we spent the first few months playing house like it was something out of a rom-com. We had Sunday brunches at a little cafe in Andersonville and lazy nights binge-watching shows. He'd talk about our future, kids, maybe a dog someday. I ate it up. I thought he was the one. Every moment with him felt like we were building something lasting. But Damien always had these business trips. I never questioned them. He worked at a big downtown firm, and I knew finance was a demanding industry. He'd sigh, talk about deadlines, and I'd reassure him, saying, "Just make it up to me when you're back." One Friday night, I'd come home from visiting my dad in St. Louis. He'd been sick, and I'd been there for days, helping my mom. I was exhausted. I walked in, expecting Damien to be out, but instead, I found his laptop open on the couch. I don't know what drew me to it, but I wandered over, thinking I'd close it. Then I saw it, his chat screen with someone named Celine. Messages about how much he missed her, how he'd make it up to her during his next trip to New York. My stomach dropped. I scrolled up, and there it was, months and months of messages. Work trips that were actually romantic getaways, hotel details, photos of the two of them together. I felt like I'd been slapped. I could barely breathe. Just then, I heard the lock turn. Damien walked in, all smiles. "Hey, babe, I wasn't expecting you back yet." I froze, heart pounding, fingers still hovering over the laptop keys. I was caught between fury and shock, and all I could do was stare at him, my brain struggling to process the betrayal. "Oh. My. God. Damien," I whispered, almost to myself. "How could you?" "What?" He glanced at the laptop, and his face went white. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "Celine?" My voice came out sharper than I expected. "Who the hell is Celine?" He stammered, running a hand through his hair.
"Clarissa, I can explain.
It's not what it looks like." "Oh, really?" I snapped, scrolling through the messages. "Because it looks like you've been screwing someone behind my back for half the year. And I'm sure you have a brilliant explanation for all these work trips too, right?" "Listen," he said, trying to take my hand, but I pulled away like his touch would burn me. She doesn't mean anything to me. It was a mistake. A stupid mistake." "You don't mean that. You meant it every time you went out with her, every time you lied to me, every time you looked me in the eye and told me you were working late," I spat. "How could you? I trusted you." He ran his hands over his face, looking genuinely panicked. "Clarissa, please, let's talk about this, okay? It's not as black and white as you think." My laugh came out bitter. "Oh, really? Because it seems pretty black and white to me, Damien. You were unfaithful. You lied. You looked me in the eye every single day and made me believe I was your whole world, and the whole time you were screwing someone else." For a split second, he looked angry, like I was the one who'd done something wrong. "Do you even understand the stress I'm under? Do you know how hard I work for us, to give us this life?" I rolled my eyes. "Don't you dare put this on me. Don't you dare act like cheating was somehow my fault. Or that I should be grateful." He tried a different tactic, voice softening. "Look, I'm sorry, okay? I don't know what I was thinking. I'll fix this, Clarissa. Just tell me what to do. I'll end it with her, I'll end it right now." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts, but I couldn't bear to watch the performance. I was shaking. "Don't even bother, Damien. It's over. We're over. I'll pack my things and be out by tomorrow." He reached for me, desperate. "Clarissa, please. Don't go. You mean everything to me. I'll make this right, I swear." I shook my head, eyes stinging. "No, Damien. You meant everything to me. And you took that and stomped all over it. So, no. There's nothing to fix. We're done." I went into the bedroom, shut the door, and locked it. I could hear him banging on the door, pleading, but I blocked him out, sliding to the floor as silent sobs shook me. I sat there for hours, unable to sleep, unable to think straight. The next day, while he was out, I packed my things, leaving behind every reminder of him and that beautiful lie I believed in for so long. As I picked up my phone to call my friend Mila, I noticed something. The screenshots I'd taken of those messages. They were still there, each one staring back at me like a knife in my gut. In that moment, I knew I wasn't just going to walk away quietly. Damien had taken so much from me, shattered my trust and dignity, and now he was going to feel the consequences. So, I took those screenshots, attached them to an email, and sent them to his boss, his no-nonsense, family man boss who I knew wouldn't tolerate this behavior from his employees. Damien's boss responded to my email within the hour. I remember sitting there, staring at my phone, hands trembling with both nerves and a strange excitement. He wrote that he was deeply concerned about the behavior I described and appreciated me bringing it to his attention. I could almost picture Damien's face when he'd be called into the office, blindsided, totally unprepared. It was petty, sure, but after everything he'd done to me, I felt like it was the justice I needed. That night, I stayed with Mila. She was my rock throughout all of this. When I told her what I'd done, her eyes widened, but then she gave me a slow nod of approval. "That man deserves everything coming to him," she said, pouring me another glass of wine. "Good for you, Clarissa. He's not going to walk away from this like nothing happened." The next morning, Damien called. I didn't answer. He called 3 more times, left voicemails, and then, finally, he texted, "Clarissa, please. Just pick up. I need to talk to you." I ignored him. By mid-afternoon, my phone lit up with a new message. "I just got fired. Are you happy now?" I stared at the message, feeling a strange satisfaction. It was the first time I'd felt a semblance of peace since I found those messages. But Damien wasn't done. He showed up at Mila's apartment that evening. I'd just finished recounting the whole saga to Mila, who was fully on board with my decision to cut him out of my life for good. Then came the knock. Mila peered through the peephole, then looked back at me with wide eyes. "It's him," she whispered. "Don't let him in," I said quickly, but she was already opening the door just a crack. Damien's voice was desperate, broken. He sounded almost like the Damien I used to love, but I knew it was just an act. "Clarissa, I know you're in there," he called out, voice shaking. "Please, just let me explain. You have no idea what you've done." I couldn't resist. I walked to the door, crossed my arms, and stared at him through the small opening. "What I've done?" I asked, voice cold. "Oh, Damien, you have no idea what you did. I gave you everything. My trust, my love, and you threw it all away for someone else." His eyes darted around, then back at me. "Clarissa, please. I'm jobless. Celine left me. I lost everything because of you. Can we just talk?" "No, Damien, there's nothing to talk about." I pushed the door closed, but his hand shot out, holding it open. "Wait, please. I don't have anywhere to go," he said, sounding pitiful, small. "I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I'll fix it. I'll get another job, I'll do anything." "Why would I ever believe a word you say?" I asked, forcing myself to stay calm. "You lied to me for months, cheated on me, humiliated me, and now you want my sympathy?" His eyes filled with frustration. "You went too far, Clarissa. You ruined me. All I did was make a mistake, and you destroyed my life." I took a deep breath, my voice steady. "You destroyed your own life, Damien. Actions have consequences. You thought you could play me, and it backfired. That's not my fault." I stared at him, feeling stronger with each word. "This isn't revenge. This is karma." With that, I closed the door in his face. I heard him mutter something, a frustrated growl, and then footsteps as he walked away. Mila hugged me tight. "I'm proud of you," she said, smiling. "He's out of your life for good now." But it wasn't quite over. I learned through mutual friends that Damien was struggling to find another job. Word about his personal conduct had spread through the industry, and no one wanted to touch him. One night, I received a text from an unknown number. I opened it and saw a photo, Damien, disheveled, standing in front of a half-packed U-Haul truck, the Chicago skyline fading in the background. The message read, "Leaving Chicago. Congratulations, Clarissa. You win." I didn't reply. I saved the message, looked at it one last time, and deleted it. In the months that followed, I rebuilt my life. I poured myself into my work, reconnected with friends I'd drifted from during my relationship with Damien, and even started traveling more. I was discovering pieces of myself that I'd forgotten in my attempt to be everything Damien wanted. And for the first time, I felt free. One day, I ran into Celine at a coffee shop downtown. She recognized me instantly. We exchanged a brief, tense glance, and then she nodded, almost as if to say, "I know what he did to you." There was no need for words, It was like we shared a silent understanding. She looked sadder, wiser. I knew she'd been through her own version of my story. As for Damien? Last I heard, he was back in Ohio, living with his parents and working at a small, local bank. His friends in Chicago had moved on, and the life he'd built here was gone. I don't know if he ever really understood why things ended the way they did, but it didn't matter. I'd finally learned that I deserved better. Sometimes, I still feel a pang of hurt when I think about what he did, but it doesn't control me anymore. I'd been betrayed, hurt, and broken, but I'd found the strength to fight back and stand up for myself. And in the end, that was the sweetest revenge.